Hi everyone, Sajid Amit here, and welcome to my discussion on whether a $200 headphone like the HD6XX, and I do have to say there's nothing like this in the market, whether this can scale. As a lot of you who have been in this hobby for a bit of time might know that this headphone scales like nothing else. And so the question I'm going to try to answer for you guys, which has been posed to me in the comments before, the question is whether that headphone can scale and compete with a $6,000 headphone. So, of course, those of you who have followed my work will know that I'm a bit of a Summit guy in the sense that, I wasn't always intending to be a reviewer. I wanted to get my feet into the hobby, and then sort of like reviews happened because it was just fun for me to share what I thought about these products with a lot of you. And, once this came in, I really thought that I should do a review of this amplifier, which hasn't happened yet. But at the same time, a lot of the questions that I get on my channel in the comments have to do with, Sajid, why do you always do Summit 5 stuff, right? Like, so I do Summit 5 stuff because that's basically the stuff that has attracted me. I wanted to sort of push myself and push my hobby and push my listening experiences as far as I could. And I wanted to see what's out there. So I often travel to experience new products, so that happens. So that's basically why I have a lot of Summit 5 products. But then I do want to talk a bit about value in this video and in my future videos, right? So this, of course, is well known for its value. And a lot of you who have heard this or know about this headphone will know that, this is not a headphone that you can just drive off anything. Of course, you cannot drive this very well off a phone or a dongle. It does scale. So the higher quality amplification you give it, the better it sounds. So that's pretty much the sort of conventional wisdom. And some of you will also know that this is a high impedance dynamic driver headphone. So there are special types of amps that can bring out more or eke out more of its technical performance. So with that in mind, honestly, guys, I got the Felix Audio Euphoria. To be more precise, I got it for my ZMF headphones. But then once I got my ZMF headphones, I wanted to get also the 6XX in. And I wanted to see how, the 6XX scales on this. So this is, of course, Felix Audio Euphoria Anniversary Edition. So this is not the stock version. It's a bit more expensive. It has better stock tubes and better internal components as well. So I got this in, and I've been blown away by this amplifier, honestly. So this is not to be compared with the Wu Audio WA33 or other high-end set amplifiers, because this is an OTL. An OTL design essentially means that it's not a transformer-based design. And so there's a lot less between your headphones and the actual tubes, which are naturally high impedance. So there is more impedance matching that goes on with these headphones and these amplifiers, and these soar to a very high level of performance on the Felix Audio Euphoria. So in terms of how these two compare, I just want to say that it's obviously not fair comparing a $200 headphone. This, of course, is a drop version of, the 650, which is closer to a $400 headphone. The price of the 650 will vary, let's say, on Amazon, depending on, what time of the year it is. It can go from $300 all the way to $450 or more. So, of course, like I said, it's not easy or fair to compare Susvara with the 650. But honestly, guys, there are a few things I still think the 650 does really well. And on a few parameters, I feel the 650 gives the Susvara a run for its money. Vocals. So vocals are, of course, critical to the hobby, to the listening pleasure of most of you guys, as is the case for me, because vocals are a part of the track, which I feel is the most human in a sense, right? And a lot of us that try to sort of assess headphones or speakers on the basis of how natural they sound will often sort of index for how natural the vocals sound. So guys, I want to go out on a limb and make the claim that purely in terms of analogishness and vocal timbre and naturalness of vocal timbre, especially of my Felix Euphoria tube amp that I just showed you guys, the 6XX beats the Susvara. Purely in terms of vocal naturalness and timbre, the 6XX beats the Susvara. Overall, in terms of vocal listening pleasure, I think the 6XX hold its own with the Susvara, in the sense that I feel like this gives you, or me, 80 to 85% of listening pleasure that I get with the Susvara only on vocal-based tracks. So to give you some examples of vocal-based tracks, and they don't have to be tracks that are just someone singing, they can be more complex than that. So a few days ago, I was playing a bunch of different tracks because I loved all of their vocals. So I played two female vocal artists or two female vocal tracks, one by Sofia Karlberg, a cover of Hozier's Take Me to Church, both the cover and the acoustic version of the cover. I played Powell Sullivan's cover of Ed Sheeran's Perfect. She's not as well known an artist, but her vocals are enchanting, so do check her out, Powell Sullivan. I played, so apologies for the car honking. As I've said before, I live in a very noisy city. So in addition to those two, I played some random stuff. Like I love Dave Mustaine's vocals, so you don't associate Mustaine with being like a sweet vocalist. But I love Megadeth, and I wanted to see how well these headphones do vocals of Mustaine. I played Michael Stipe, REM's vocalist, and I played the live version rather, of the song, The One I Love. I played Gavin Rossdale of Bush. I played the Bush track, Machine Head from 16 Stone album, an album that I've just loved growing up, and a variety of other tracks, guys. So the TLDR of all my listening tests between these two headphones is that I feel like this, of course, will give you more vocal nuances, inflections in a voice, a reverb in a sort of a venue. So when I played Mustaine, I was playing the song Tout Le Monde from the Euthanasia album, and the vocal reverb, or the echo rather, of Mustaine's voice, and the way the voice echoed and was bouncing around in the walls of the venue was very distinct with this. Wasn't as distinct with this. The clarity of Sofia Karlberg's voice when she was, crooning away in the Take Me to Church cover was just a lot more visible here. So this had more vocal clarity, more micro nuances. In the Powell Sullivan track, the cover of Ed Sheeran's Perfect, there was a time when her voice quietens to a whisper, and that was just a lot more evident and well captured by the Susvara, the macrodynamic contrast, in her vocals. In the REM track, the vocals was just a lot more well separated from the rest of the track because it got quite busy. You got a sense of, the claps of the audience engaging with Michael Stipe's voice and the overall performance. So that was a lot more visible or, listenable with the Susvara, more evident. So better separation, better space, better nuances, better air around instruments and all that. So all that was just absolutely great. And like I said, vocal reverb, echo, and all that. So this is, of course, an astounding performer when it comes to resolution and all, when you amp it right. So you do need a fair bit of juice to amp the Susvara right. So I'm not going to get into a debate right now on what you need to amp this with. However, I do want to say that despite whatever I've said about the Susvara, in terms of pure listening pleasure, I feel like this was very sufficient. Because in all these tracks, despite the fact that this might not have the spacing of instruments that the Susvara has, the clarity that the Susvara has, and a whole bunch of other parameters that I just talked about, off the Felix Audio Euphoria, this was still a performer because this does scale in terms of clarity even. So you run it off like a dongle or even like a cheaper amp DAC, but then you use a Felix Audio Euphoria, which I'm running with my Holo Audio Maydac. This then scales in terms of clarity. So this is no longer veiled, I think. This is quite clear. There is a sufficient amount of, a healthy amount of resolution here, which I think is almost like, I don't know, my Felix Audio Euphoria, it's I think 70 to 80% of Susvara. So this is a giant killer if there ever was one in the headphone section of the hobby. And overall, this had more body than a Susvara. This had more analogishness. Susvara is analogish and very natural to start with, but this takes it further. More body, more warmth, more analogishness, and overall a friendlier experience because let's say on the Michael Stipe or the REM track, because of the little 8K peak Susvara has, the sticks sounded a bit sharper. And overall, Susvara was a brighter experience without necessarily being very bright. But this just was a very friendly experience, listening to a lot of different kinds of vocal performers. So I honestly want to say that if you don't have the money for Susvara, if you like vocals, if you want to sort of talk about value, guys, I do have a lot of regard for value, and I do want to say that despite having reviewed a lot of Summit 5 products on my channel, I do want to give this a big shout out once again because this is insane for value. Of course, value discussions go out of the window when you have something like this, because this is an extremely expensive OTL. It's a kilobuck range OTL. If I'm not mistaken, it's priced at $3,000 or more. I tend to forget what this is priced at, but so yeah, so overall, if you have such an expensive chain, of course, the value discussions are out of the window. But I will recommend other cheaper OTLs that do the 6XX justice or can scale a 6XX, I do want you guys to check out the La Figaro tube amp on Shenzhen Audio. So I'll drop a link to that. I'll drop a link to this as well. The La Figaro tube amp is not cheap either, but it's sub $1,000, guys. So there are ways in which, and of course you have a bottle head crack with which you can drive some of these headphones, which are even less expensive. So there are ways of getting around, the expensive chains that I talk about. But if you want to talk about value, the 6XX is as good as it gets, guys. That's it from me. I hope this discussion was somewhat interesting. And if you like this video, do give my video a like and follow my channel. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye-bye.